Chapter 4. Survival Day. A week later, at Second High School of Sangnan City. Hey, look, is that person from our school? Why is he wearing a cloth over his eyes? He's wearing our school uniform, so he must be from here. He's holding a white cane, so he's probably blind. Strange, I haven't seen him before. He must be a new student in this year's freshman class. Believe it or not, he looks pretty cool with that black cloth around his eyes. But how does a blind person attend classes? Our school doesn't seem to have any special classes. I don't know. As expected, when Lin Chia walked through the school gate, he drew a wave of attention. However, Lin Chia had been through this kind of scene too many times to be affected. He walked down the school's Maple Leaf Avenue and headed towards the teaching building as if it were just another day. He had prepared himself for the inevitable teasing and mockery, expecting the typical school bullies from countless stories to come forward and make his life difficult. However, no such troublemakers appeared. Instead, many students approached him, offering help. This left Lin Chia feeling oddly disappointed. After all, modern students who had undergone 9 years of compulsory education were generally more understanding. Even if there were troublemakers, today's social climate emphasized brotherhood and chivalry. It was one thing to deal with disputes among themselves, but to bully someone with a disability would lead to public scorn and ruin their reputation. Lin Chia climbed the stairs and soon found his classroom. Class 2, Grade 11. Having completed a year in a special school for his freshman year, he was now transferring in as an additional student. In most films and novels, transfer students were often depicted as being neglected, isolated, and miserable. After all, by the end of their freshman year, various cliques had already formed, making it difficult for new students to integrate if they didn't make an effort. Lin Chia was well aware that he wasn't the proactive type. Even if he had spent his freshman year with them, his aloof demeanor likely meant he would still be alone. But being alone wasn't so bad. At least Lin Chia enjoyed the solitude, free from disturbances, focusing on his studies. If he were forced to build relationships with others, he might resist. Standing at the classroom door, Lin Chia took a deep breath, composed himself, and stepped inside. The moment Lin Chia entered the classroom, the noisy chatter instantly stopped, and the air fell silent. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Just as Lin Chia was about to say something, the classroom erupted with activity. Are you Lin Chia? Your seat is ready. It's over there. Lin Chia, are you unable to see? Let me take you there. Careful, there are things in the aisle. Hey, someone move your bag. Before Lin Chia could react, several classmates had already come forward, carefully guiding him to his seat. A tall boy even took Lin Chia's bag and carried it on his shoulder. Surrounded by so many people, Lin Chia arrived at his seat, safely. Lin Chia. This wasn't what he had imagined. Lin Chia. I'm the class monitor, Jiang Qian. If you need anything, just ask me, said a girl with a ponytail, patting her chest. I'm Li Yifei. If you want to eat, let me know and I'll take you, the boy who carried his bag said with a smile. And me, I'm Wang Xiao. A crowd of students surrounded him, enthusiastically introducing themselves. For a moment, Lin Chia felt a bit bewildered. To be honest, this was quite different from what he had imagined. You know me? Lin Chia asked, looking puzzled. The homeroom teacher told us about you, the class monitor Jiang Qian replied. But what impressed us the most was your aunt. That day, she came here with a basket of eggs, handing them out to us and asking us to look out for you. A thunderbolt seemed to strike in Lin Chia's mind, leaving him stunned. As the students continued talking, he could no longer hear them. He stared blankly at the classroom, and his mind involuntarily conjured up the image of that middle-aged woman with a hunched back, holding a basket of freshly cooked eggs, earnestly asking the students for help. Students, please help out. My nephew's eyes aren't good, and he's a bit reserved. Please take care of him. Little girl, you look so pretty. My nephew is handsome too. You'll definitely like him. This child, Chia, is cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Once you get to know him, you'll get along well. He didn't know when, but the black satin around his eyes had become slightly damp. Auntie, he muttered to himself. While everyone chatted and introduced themselves, a female teacher walked in with a stack of books. She greeted Lin Chia, offered some comforting words, and then introduced him to the class before starting the lesson. Everyone, turn to page 91. Today, we're going to talk about the modern history and difficulties of the Great Xia. Because of Lin Chia's presence, the teacher skipped the usual review of the textbook and went straight into the content. 800 years ago, there were over 200 countries on Earth, spread across 7 continents and 4 oceans, each with its own customs and cultures. Even in that era, when technology was not advanced, we could still travel by ship to different countries and experience the cultural exchanges between them. However, on March 9th, a mysterious fog suddenly appeared in Antarctica and spread at an astonishing rate, covering nearly 98% of the Earth's surface within just 24 hours. Human-made skyscrapers, ancient forests, unfathomable oceans. Everything was covered by the fog, and countless countries were engulfed, vanishing without a trace. However, when this bizarre fog was about to invade the territory of the Great Xia, it stopped. No one knows why, but it stopped in such a strange manner. For 100 years, countless theories and speculations have been proposed. Some say the fog is a life form that, after consuming 98% of the Earth, was satisfied and thus stopped near Great Xia. Others say it is due to the unique magnetic field of Great Xia that hindered the fog's spread. Some believe it is the accumulated essence of Great Xia's 5,000 years that has protected this land. The composition of this fog is entirely beyond human comprehension. Light, sound, electromagnetic waves, and other detection methods cannot penetrate it. No one knows whether the other countries swallowed by the fog a century ago still exist. Experts predict that their chances of surviving in the fog are extremely low because the fog is lethal whether inhaled or if it contacts the skin. In the past 100 years, our country has sent countless well-equipped exploration teams into the fog, but none of them have returned. 50 years ago, our country successfully launched its first satellite. The images transmitted from space showed that the Earth had turned gray and white, with only the Great Xia remaining as a pure land. Today, Great Xia is like an island on this planet, and we are perhaps the last survivors. Thus, the day the fog appeared, March 9th, is known as Survival Day, Chapter 5, The Unbound Void. The moon hung high, and the stars were few. As the bell rang for the end of the evening study session, students trickled out of the classrooms, chatting and laughing as they walked into the night. After a long day of enduring classes, this was probably their most relaxing time. No homework, no teachers, just a few friends around, a nice hot shower, and then heading to bed. What could be better? Among this scattered crowd, a group of over a dozen students emerged, marching steadily and purposefully out of the school grounds. At their center was a boy wrapped in black satin like a dumpling filling, securely enveloped. Such a large group quickly drew the attention of everyone around. Honestly, I can walk back by myself. Really? Lin Chia said with a slight twitch at the corner of his mouth, looking a bit helpless. I can see. It's just that my eyes don't handle light very well. No need to explain, Lin Chia. Zhang Qian interrupted him firmly. We promised your aunt that we'd take good care of you, and we will. Yeah, Chia. Our homes are in the same direction. It's on the way. I'm heading in the same direction too. Lin Chia. Truth be told, he would prefer to be alone right now. After spending so much time in darkness, he wasn't used to all this attention from so many people. It made him uncomfortable. Of course, he didn't count his aunt and Yang Jin among them, since they were family. Still, they meant well, and he couldn't complain. He just resigned himself to following the group. I need to turn right at the next intersection, but I'll walk with you for a bit longer. I'm about to turn too. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. As they moved further from the school, the students surrounding Lin Chia began to leave one by one. After a few minutes, only 5 people remained by his side. The once lively atmosphere had quieted down, and the space felt much more open. Lin Chia let out a long sigh of relief. Do you guys think the fog will really resurface and swallow the whole of Xia again? Li Yifei asked curiously as he carried his backpack. Didn't you hear what the experts said? The chance of the fog resurfacing is very low. It might not change for the next century. As for what happens 100 years from now, well, we won't be around to worry about it, so why bother? Zhang Qian rolled her eyes. Hey, you know how unreliable those so-called experts are. What if we finally get into college, haven't even enjoyed life, and then the fog swallows the entire Xia? That would be such a loss. So, is that why you're slacking off and not focusing on your studies? Zhang Qian said, stepping in front of Li Yifei with a serious look. I should remind you, Mr. Wang said, if you come in last again on this exam, you'll be moving your desk to the front of the class. Got it, Li Yifei said with an embarrassed smile. Anyway, I really don't think the fog will resurface. Wang Xiao, who had been leading the group, spoke up. After all, the fog is just a natural phenomenon. Once it reaches a critical point, it'll gradually fade away, just like the Ice Age. When glaciers covered the Earth, they slowly retreated as temperatures rose, leading to a new era. I know, that's the natural disaster theory, right? It's pretty widely accepted now, Jiang Qian nodded. But what if the fog isn't a natural phenomenon? Lin Qiye, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up. Wang Xiao was taken aback, then laughed. Qiye, you don't actually believe those so-called theologians, do you? That the fog is connected to supernatural forces. It's the 21st century. We should trust science. There's no place for ghosts and gods, said Lu Yuan, another classmate. Lin Qiye didn't answer. He knew best whether there were things beyond science, but there was no need to share that with outsiders. Li Yifei muttered softly, I think if there were such things, the world would be a lot more interesting. Why waste time on this? It's not something we need to worry about. Instead of stressing over whether the fog will resurface, we might as well enjoy the upcoming 3-day break, Jiang Qian said with a smile. Yeah, vacations are what really matter. At that moment, in the old district of Cangnan City, a man was walking slowly down a desolate, dimly lit street, carrying a sign. The old streetlights cast a faint glow, stretching his shadow. He glanced at his phone, arrived at a narrow street corner, and stopped. This is the spot, he mumbled to himself, setting the sign down and adjusting it. Under the flickering streetlight, the shadow of the sign wavered. On the black background, a few large red characters stood out vividly. No entry ahead. The man leaned against the streetlight, lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, and then put on his earpiece. Captain, the third sign is in place. Received. Begin. Okay. The man bit down hard on his cigarette, walked up to the sign, and pressed his thumb against his teeth, biting down forcefully. A drop of blood oozed from the wound, and the man squatted down, using his blood-stained thumb to draw a long horizontal line through the red characters, no entry ahead. His eyes narrowed, and a strange aura exploded from him. He looked up at the dark sky, whispering in a voice only he could hear. Forbidden Zone. Unbound Void. In the next moment, the red bloodstains on the sign quickly faded as if absorbed, and the 4 characters, no entry ahead, flashed with a red glow. Then they gradually returned to normal. The man sat down heavily on the ground, exhaling deeply, a hint of complaint in his voice. Damn it, emptied out again. At this moment, if someone looked down on Cangnan City from the sky, they would see 3 points of light flickering near the old district. These 3 points quickly formed an equilateral triangle of dark red. As the triangle took shape, half of the old district covered by it seemed to be erased from the map, gradually disappearing. Yet from the ground, the old district still appeared the same. Meanwhile, in the center of this triangle, 6 black and red cloaks flashed across the sky like lightning. The leading man looked up at the dark red heavens, gripping the hilt of his blade behind him, his eyes narrowing slightly. Ghost-faced purge operation, commence.